Hello and welcome back to Aubrey Books and Coffee. Please grab your favorite beverage of choice and join me. We're going to be reviewing about 20 books today. Yay! So unfortunately, Witchathon is now coming to a close, but it was so much fun. And thank you, shout out to Kim from Whimsical Narratives. I loved being your acolyte. I had so much fun. I enjoyed jumping in on various sprints and trivias and things like that. I appreciate everybody that was involved in this, especially Sam, who goes under Yarn Reader for her YouTube account, if you guys want to check her out. She's been awesome, and she's the one that came up with the whole idea of Witchathon. This was the third year, and I am absolutely participating. Next year, I'm going to still try to read a bunch of books and help my coven. So unfortunately, the Coffee Gremlins didn't win, but we did work our hardest, and we read, and we had a great time. And Kim even created some merch based off of our group. So I call it a win because anytime you do a readathon and it gets you to read more, in my book, that's a win. So the first book I'm going to review, though, is Fireborn. Now with this one, I gave it a 3-star. I had so much hype that was brought to me based on in Realmathon when they kept talking about it, the other booktubers I was watching, and everybody just kept talking about how it's this fantastic dragon, YA fantasy. And it's a good story. I am not trying to take away from it at all. It's a fun ride. You enjoy the characters. They're very well written. The story itself is well written and great pacing with it. It's just with all the hype I got, I was expecting, I guess, it to be kind of Throne of Glass, kind of amazing, and it definitely wasn't that. But it is a solid read, and I do recommend it. Then I finished A Taste of Gold and Iron. Now for this one, I gave it a 1-star. Honestly, if it wasn't one of my 20 I wanted to get done this month, probably would have DNF'd it. And I thought, what am I missing? Here's this beautiful edition, and it seems like it's going to be such a fun story, right? The prince falling in love with his guard. Like, what's not to love about it? There's magic involved, but the story was so boring, you guys. I'm sorry to say that, but it was very slow progression. Things that just made me feel like the prince was nothing but a big wimp. I mean, I just could not get on board with these characters. And so I actually looked it up in Goodreads, looked it up online, and I saw there were several people in the booktube community as well that felt the exact same way. So for some reason, it just wasn't delivering for the majority of the people that tried it. So not one I recommend, actually. And I am sorry to say that, but that beautiful book is up for grabs in drawings. Then I finished The Foxglove King. Now this one I gave a 4-star. I loved the characters. I loved the storyline. It's book 1. I am absolutely going to be continuing this series, and I highly recommend it. The only reason I didn't get that 5-star is I see myself enjoying this series, but not wanting to reread it. It's not something I'm going to want to read again and again and again. And as you know by now, 5 stars for me are reserved for the books that I can't get out of my head. I want to own them in a beautiful edition on my shelf because I plan on rereading them in the future, and I just love them. And so The Foxglove King, at least book 1, was not that for me, which means that beautiful edition's up for you. Then I read Edvika and the Hollywood Wives. This one I gave a 3-star. It was a good, solid story. I think what was lacking for me, and again, 3 stars not bad. It's still a good read, still one I would recommend to others, but it started off being kind of sweet where Edvika would talk about these movies that she wanted to have, wanted to research basically because she's marrying this much older guy. And so she wants to do the silver screen kind of movie marathon watches. And she wants to learn some older songs and things like that. But it just got to a point where 2/3 of the book is nothing more than her talking about these movies and talking about songs and even quoting song lyrics. And I just felt like it was unnecessary. Like, you could just mention the movies all in one chapter or something, and you just briefly say that she went through watching all of the Audrey Hepburn stuff or whatever the case may be. For me, I just didn't enjoy having huge chunks of the book devoted simply to talking about these different movies. I really wanted something where it was like a mystery is what I read on the cover. That is he killing off his previous wives? Like, what's going on? And that actually wasn't in there at all, like at all. So I felt a little bit disappointed because it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be. So again, it is a solid story, and I do like how the author writes and, kind of puts her characters out there. I really got attached to Advika, but yeah, the rest of it was just kind of a miss for me. Then I read Midnight Strikes. And for this one, I gave it a 3-star. Again, a solid read. I'm glad I read it. I do recommend it. It's a beautiful edition that now is available for grabs. It reminded me a lot of Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where, this one person keeps waking up and reliving this same day and has to figure out what to do to help get past this and to protect people and save people and stop this horrible event from happening. And you feel very frustrated with this person and like with everything they're going through. And so I enjoyed that. The characters were very relatable and I liked it. What made it go 3-star from 4-star for me was the ending. I did not like the ending. I did not find it satisfying at all. And then I was so disappointed, but then when I flipped the next page, because I like to read the author's notes and acknowledgments, the Owl Crate exclusive edition did have an extra chapter. Now that extra chapter, which isn't even a part of the regular book normally, that made me happy. If that had been the ending of the book, it would have been a 4-star for me. So I'm sorry that it's not in there unless you have that particular edition. I recommend you guys finding it and getting your hands on it, because for me anyway, it made the ending much better. Then I read 7 Faceless Saints. Now this one, remember I said in my TBR game that I was so excited to read because it reminded me of Nevernight, with a girl whose father's murdered. She wants to avenge him. She has to learn how to be kind of like an assassin. She meets others and gets a found family, all sounding very much like Nevernight. However, that's as far as it goes. Maybe because it's a YA, it was much more watered down. I should not have compared it to Nevernight. That was my bad. It was an unfair comparison because where Jay Kristoff gave us this incredible world, this one was a much simpler build of the world. And the events that transpired were very slow, very small amounts of progression. And then when things did happen, they weren't big things. So it'd be like, kind of a build up of, and now we're going shopping kind of a feeling. And so for me, it didn't hit like I was hoping it would, but I'm pretty sure that's my fault for going into it hoping for more. So it was still a solid story. I would still recommend it for others. And so I gave it that 3-star. Then I finished The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This one I also gave a 3-star. You can kind of see a running theme here. I had put it off for a long, long time because I loved the Hunger Games so much. My daughter loved the Hunger Games. We love watching the movies. But this one we knew was kind of a prequel, and it was about President Snow, and really didn't care about President Snow like at all. So I really didn't have a huge draw to pick this up. But I am glad that I ended up having to do it for my TBR, and I am glad that I've now read it. I feel completed. It ended up being better than I thought it was going to be, honestly. Initially, it was kind of slow starting, and it is a whole lot of snow, and you're just like, whatever, man. But you get to see more about Tigress, and she is incredible, and she's beautiful, and I love her. So you end up getting have more of that, and you get to kind of see how the Hunger Games transitioned from what it was prior to Snow getting involved to him as a youth being forced to be involved in the Hunger Games because of the school he's attending, and he has to help mentor someone from District 12, and so It's all about the relationship between him and this girl, and it's about him trying to navigate the political world of the capital, and it ended up actually being way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. So like I said, I'm really glad I read it. I do recommend, if you have not read it, but you've done the rest of the Hunger Games, you give it a shot. If you don't want to read the physical book, they have an amazing audio that was done very well. So check that out on Libby or Hoopla for free, and you won't go wrong. Then I finished Mad Honey. This I gave a 3-star only because it's not a normal book that I go for. So kind of like some people have to be in the mood for horror or for comedy. I really have to be in the mood if I want to watch something with a whole lot of heavy, heavy drama. I went into this really not knowing much more than what the cover slip had shown, and there's so much more into it. I wish I could tell you more, but it's like a big reveal halfway through, and it would ruin things to say it. Just suffice to say, there are several trigger warnings in this book. Several. So be very, very careful when you pick this up, because without spoiling yourself, I don't know how you would know which ones to watch out for. So just assume anything is up for grabs when they do this story. But it was beautifully written by both authors. I'm very impressed with how they handled situations. I think they were very true to characters, very true with the way our world works, very true to the judicial system and how it works. And yeah, the multiple topics are hit upon in this book, but they're done very, very well. But I wasn't going into it preparing myself to have something so heavy. And so I give it a 3-star, but I do recommend it. Make sure you're in the mood for it, but you're going to be impressed when you walk away from it. Then I finished reading Saint. For this, I gave it a 4-star. You know, this is the prequel to the Fable duology that I loved so, so much. Adrienne Young is like one of my favorite authors. She's incredible. But I did love Saint. I loved getting to find out more about her dad and the history there between that and her mother, and just kind of how everything began. There was a big reveal, and it was hilarious because Kim from Whimsical Narratives was just waiting for me to get to the part where I saw this reveal, and she and I were kind of giggling about it on the sidelines. So I definitely recommend it. If you've done the original duology, you need to pick up Saint, and you need to get caught up on things. Then I read Spice Road. This I gave a 3-star. I was so disappointed. I'm not going to lie. Super thick book, beautiful book. So it's up for grabs. I loved the world that they were in. I cared a lot about the brother-sister relationships that were going on. I always love a good genie story. However, for every good point the author did, she would literally drag out scenes where you would have like 5 chapters where they're around the same campfire. I mean, it went on and on and on. It was so boring. And I felt bad because I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I like things faster paced. If I'm doing an audiobook, I'm listening to it at least 1.5 or 2 speed. I mean, I like things to move. And then I started doing the chats and stuff on Discord with other booktubers and people that are also reading this book. And it was kind of universal that it dragged. You wouldn't have hardly any story progression whatsoever. And keep in mind, this is going to be a series. So unfortunately, I'm not continuing it. I 3-starred it because for someone out there, I'm sure it's going to be a great read. For me, it was just a read, and I did enjoy it more than what a 2-star would warrant. So that's why it's at a 3-star, but it was nowhere ever going to be close to a 4-star for me. Then I read House of Beating Wings. Now, this one surprised me. Oh my gosh, I gave it a 5-star. It's now up on my shelf over there. I hope to reread it, especially before the next one comes out, because yes, this is a series. Like I needed to start a new series, right? But it was so fun. It was fae, it was halflings, it was magic, it was the ability to speak with animals, it was going on a quest, it was, royalty intrigue, and young girls wanting to find love. And it was so cute. Now, that being said, as far as the pacing and the style of writing, I like Jennifer Armentrout better. I'm just going to be honest. But this is a very close second. I really enjoyed it. And so that's why it's on my shelf. I have no problem rereading it. I definitely recommend it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Then I finished Star Wars Old Republic Fatal Alliance. This one also surprised me. I gave it a 4-star. So far, the Star Warses have been kind of a dud for me, kind of really, really boring. Maybe I don't read enough sci-fi, and that's the problem. But regardless, I really enjoyed this. It gave me the feels of like a heist meets auctioning off. So like that television show, you know, where you can go and buy a storage unit unseen and then go in and see what's in there. It kind of made me feel a little bit like that too. It also made me feel like, you know, people who, if you've ever watched a comedy with spies and like one of the spies is just like really not good at his job. It had some of that in it too. So there were some moments I was chuckling as well. So it surprised me with being as good as it was. And that's why I got the 4-star. Then I finished Mad Ship. This I gave a 3-star. I'm trying, you guys. I am trying. Now there was some development of the characters. We'll just say a sister specifically that I was actually really impressed because I started off hating her. So I'm glad to see the progression and growth of characters. I love seeing these ships and their own personalities. That being said, I have yet to fall in love with this series. Everybody just talks about how great it was, especially compared to the Farseer trilogy. I still way prefer Fitz and the Farseer trilogy. I'm hoping maybe next month when I read the third and last in this trilogy that maybe it'll finally come together and click for me. So I'm not mad at Robin Hobb. I still like the writing style, but 3 stars is all I'm going to do. Then I finished Gideon the Ninth. Now this was my own book club's pick for the month of May. Gave it a 5-star. We all loved it. The humor in this is fantastic. The character development, the strange puzzles they have to figure out, and you know the competition and just everything. I mean, it's a fantastic ride. Cannot wait to pick up the next book for real. Then I finished Cruel Illusions. This one I gave a 4-star. I wanted to give it a 5-star. It's a gorgeous book, as you can see. Oh my gosh. And then the sprayed and stenciled edges on the side are roses to boot, which fits perfect in this story. I wanted so bad to keep this, you guys. But I wanted to be true. I was never going to read it again. I'm just not. And here's why: the ending. So this amazing story all the way through. You love these characters. I love how they came up with their whole magic stuff, especially you think of movies like Now You See Me with the magic that goes on with that, but mix that with vampires, mix that with, you know, a found family. And it just, oh my gosh, it gives you all the feels. But at the ending, it felt very much like the author was throwing everything in there, trying to make it feel complete, trying to make it feel like a monumentous ending, an epic ending, I guess. And it just fell flat for me on that. So that's why I went from the 5-star. I was thinking for sure it was going to be down to the 4-star, but it means that gorgeous edition is now available for you. I am very jealous. Just gonna be honest. Then I finished City of Nightmares. This one I gave a 4 stars. It was spooky, it was quirky, it was funny, it was cute. I had to look up to see if it was a series, and it is in fact going to be a series. So I will be picking up the next one when it comes out. But it also works as a standalone. I didn't even realize it was part of a series until we were having the discussion in my Friday morning sprints about it. So that was news for me. But yeah, if you just want to read it as a standalone, there's nothing to stop you for doing that. But this book has everything from giant spiders and vampires again to pterodactyls. I mean, you can't go wrong with this book. It really is good. And there's fun little twists at the end. And I do recommend picking it up. Then I finished A Dowry of Blood. This one I gave a 3-star. It's written like it's a diary in the perspective of this woman. And it's vampire in origin, in case you didn't know that. And And so I didn't mind the diary aspect at all. And some of the writing felt very poetic, very well written and beautiful. It also kind of reminded me of Interview with a Vampire, if you've ever read that novel or watched the movie. For me, it got a 3-star because it got really weird in places, you guys. Like, you're like, where are you going with this? Like, I'm starting to get oogies. Like, where are you going with this? And then the ending, while yes, it was satisfying for me. Well, it's a very thin book, so it felt like maybe it should have had more meat into it than what it was. So I'm not mad at it. I would recommend it. It's got to be something, again, you're in the mood for. If you just want something kind of Interview with the Vampire, but light, go with that. Don't expect anything earth-shattering. Yeah, and you could just have a fun little short ride with it, I suppose. Then I finished Nightbirds. I gave this a 4-star, and to see the full review, I'm sorry, I'm going to refer you to my Once Upon a Book Club video for it. Sorry, I'm shameless. Then I read Heartstopper. This got a 4-star. It was so cute. Everybody's been talking about the TV show that's come out, and they've been talking about this graphic novel and how sweet it is. I did not know, so I'm going to give you a heads up. The art style is like someone drew in their notebook at school. And like the kid, at the same time of drawing these little images in their notebook, also hand wrote the dialogue. So just expect that whenever you go into it, because it did take me by surprise. I've been, reading lore and things like that, and even Solo Leveling. And so I was expecting that kind of art style, and I was expecting that kind of wording. So don't let that detract from you. By the time I was a good 20, 30 pages in, it didn't bother me at all. I didn't even notice it. Such a sweet and open and honest story, and it was so cute. Highly recommend this. Last but not least, I read In Nightfall. This one I gave a 4-star, and I'm going to shamelessly plug that video. Go see the Once Upon a Book Club review of that for a full review. So I also, of course, had those writing roles. And yeah, we're not going to talk about that. I know. It just didn't happen, you guys. Like, it didn't happen. I'm trying to wrap up and get into summer, and I've been distracted big time with other things. But thankfully, with these Friday morning sprints, which if you didn't know, 9 a.m. Eastern to 12 or 1 p.m. Eastern, feel free to join on my channel. Just come on in. We just kind of tell it how it is while we're there. But I do get some writing done finally with that, at least. So I don't know. I may have to stop doing writing roles for a while until I get caught up on things, because sometimes it goes a little crazy. I think for June, I'll go ahead and do it and just see how it goes. And if I can actually accomplish the ones I get in June, then maybe I'll continue it. But if I'm not able to get June's done either, it may have to be something that gets retired for a little bit. But I also did do the exercise challenges. And so the Nesta Archeron Stair Challenge, I now only have 5,325 stairs left to go. Woo! And for the Lord of the Rings Miles Challenge, I only have 909 miles to go. So go me. I hope you guys had a great May. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. I hope you're enjoying the idea of now moving into summer and hopefully a more relaxed and fun things. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. Please like, subscribe, send your friends, and I'll see you soon.